Way down in Terrytown, there's a special way to get around. It's the only way I've ever found to play above the ground.
Oh, sounds a bit rude.
Hello everyone, LJ here, and you might know me for one thing and one thing only. And that is, I invented driving. According to some a-hole I hate in person. I'm not going to say their name, because they're not aware of what the hell I'm doing for a living. Reviewing stuff, playing God with Orange Train, and going to a 9 to 5 job every day, 5 days a week, like a decently functioning member of society. And juggling all that in one sitting, which is why my videos take as long. As the famous Linkara once said, it'll be out when it's out, and that's a great work ethic. But anyways, I'm going sideways here. I like Thomas the Tank Engine, but I also like boats. So there's tugs, and Theodore Tugboat. Pick your poison. But I also like construction vehicles. Doing construction things. So there's Jack in the Pack. Thomas's short-lived spin-off, even if it doesn't feel like a spin-off at all. Now you're probably wondering why I listed all these four specifically. It's because of their charm, their interesting connection to each other, and its unique style. To further add with what makes them all unique is the usage of live action models, pushing what they can to their usage of technology with the models at the time, with special RC mechs for the eyes in all three shows and spin-off. Thomas during the first 5 seasons during 1984 to 1998, pushing what they can until seasons 6 to 12 fails to understand what made the first 5 seasons very special and unique, especially season 12. What the hell was wrong with those people? Can we pretend that season 12 never happened at all? Tugs and Theodore Tugboat as a whole, with the usage of water, especially with using very big tanks filled with water, with them all sitting on trolleys. And also Tugs' insane usage of pyrotechnics, but not to the point of overkill.
Die.
And then there's Jack in the Pack. Granted, it's there, and even though it's during the season 6 to 12 period of Thomas, but it still gets the job done and has its own unique style as well. To the point where crew members got bored and literally played Robot Wars with them. No, I'm serious, they literally played Robot Wars with these fucking models, like. Now the one thing that you've probably caught on is that all 4 mostly take place on land and water, and vice versa, with some characters, but none of them take place in the air. Granted, both shows have their characters that are based in the air, like Thomas the Tank Engine's Harold the Helicopter, and then there's Jeremy. We don't talk about Jeremy, like, can we make that go away? Please. It disgusts me. And Tugs is Sally Seaplane, who we only see flying in the opening intro, which, surprisingly, it turns out it was unused footage from the episode Sunshine, so the more you know. But what if I told you that there's a show that tackles the idea of live-action model planes in a similar style to both Thomas and Tugs? And it's none other than everyone's favourite character that you'll later see in your nightmares, JJ the Jet Plane. Yep, this lovable freak of nature didn't start off as a CGI live-action hybrid with actors, obviously green-screened onto the set. Oh wow, LJ, any idiot can play with green screen and call today, so what's your point? I don't know, it looks really obvious to some.
Magic Man! Magic Man!
What the fuck? Well, that happened. But anyways, JJ the Jet Plane originally got its start in the year 1994, and was called The Adventures of JJ the Jet Plane and His Flying Friends, until it was simplified to just JJ later on in 1996. The series focuses on the title character JJ the Jet Plane and his flying friends. Tracy, who is also a jet plane, Big Jake, who is a large plane, Snuffy the Skywriter plane, Herky the helicopter, Savannah the supersonic jet, and Old Oscar the biplane, along with the two regular human characters, Easy O'Malley, the founder of the airlines, and Brenda Blue, the ace mechanic, all living in an airport in a town called Terrytown. Very creative name, guys. Is it right next door to Victorville or something? Or Bobsville?
That's enough.
And getting up to a handful of adventures, trials and tribulations. Now before we dive in like last time, I will be tackling it in a similar way to my Underground Ernie video, where I will be talking about 3 episodes. But instead of the first 3 episodes like I did in Ernie, I'll be talking about 1 episode each from each period of the series. 1 from 1994, 1 from 1995, and 1 from 1996. And why, you may ask? Well, if you put them all side to side, you can really tell over time that they do step up their games in terms of modelling, so it would be fair to review them in their own separate little categories. Because I make the rules. And so we can also talk about the production quality as a series as we go along. So enough messing around as we dive into the first episode, JJ's First Flight. Because it's the first episode, and it's JJ's first flight. JJ's first flight starts off with JJ inside the air hangar while it's still dark outside. It's probably 5 or 6 AM, I guess, as he's really excited for his first day at Easy Airlines, and couldn't be able to get to sleep and sees the other plane, Big Jake, and introduces himself to the large plane, and tells him how he's going to impress everyone tomorrow with his flying, but Big Jake brushes it off and has his own doubts and goes back to sleep, and thinks about his first flight. The next morning, JJ goes to meet Easy O'Malley, the manager of the airline, who is pretty much the fat controller of the show's domain, and greets the little brown jet, and explains to him to remember his flight plan, but being the excited little plane that JJ is, immediately takes off to the sky, leaving us with a bald Easy O'Malley. Nice. And then JJ goes flying around the Valley of Terrytown while his poor pilot tries to control the little jet, and eventually he does as JJ returns to the hangar expecting everyone to be pleased with his flying, but everyone is not pleased with his flying due to how he behaved and forgot to remember his flight plan, and everyone pretty much giving him the cold shoulder. Until Big Jake accepts him in with open arms and he's reminded of his younger days. The episode itself isn't really that bad at all, and it's really tame for what's going on for it. And it's pretty much gets a pass for pretty much being the first episode of the series, and the premise has a good beginning and end, and the story feels like something straight out of a book aimed at younger kids, and pretty much gets the job done. Now, this is the bit where I talk about the period of the series, aka the episodes from 1994, and its production value. And as you can tell from the production, it is very amateur for its time. From the way everything is set up, from green and blue screens used throughout the series, but the beginning it kind of feels a bit choppy. Another thing that's pretty jarring is the human models, and you can tell off the bat that they pretty much used a bunch of action figures and modified them. And when I mean modify, I mean just paint them very poorly. Someone looked at this and said, "This is fine. This is fine to put on TV. This is okay, I guess. Let's paint it very poorly. In the dark." It's like a rush job. Now for the character models of the planes, like JJ, Big Jake, Herky and so on, are really impressive and are the main highlight as they're really nice to look at. So overall, an okay at best episode, and a little bit of a rocky beginning, and the episodes are entertaining to some sense. But does this mean that they will step up their game in 1995? Well, there's only one way to find out, of course. In JJ's colourful cover-up, it starts off with it being established that it's been raining for a few days in Terrytown, just like it is in Wales. When I wrote this bit at the time, but it's not raining now. You get the joke. Country rains, 'cause rain. Until it eventually stops and reveals a rainbow in the sky, and JJ thinks that he could touch the rainbow in the sky. But old Oscar tells him that it's impossible to reach the rainbow, but JJ has his doubts and sneaks off without telling anyone. For a few minutes, JJ had little to no luck reaching the rainbow, and it starts to rain again.
It's spitting! It's spitting! It's spitting! Everybody in! Everybody inside! It's spitting! Janice Farmer, get the kids! Get inside! It's spitting! Get inside! All the playground children! Get inside! Save yourselves! It's spitting! Can't begin to save you, Private Ryan.
But luckily JJ manages to find a shelter in a barn, but his back is still sticking out of the barn from the rain, which has now turned into hail and smacking down on his back. Then he realises that he's not the only one taking cover, as a pair of twins called Harry and Larry, and quickly becomes good friends with the twins. Soon as the rain dies down and JJ realises that his back is damaged and dented from the hailstones, luckily Harry and Larry offer to fix up the Lawjet, but unknown to JJ, they paint his back blue and not his brown colour. Then JJ heads off home completely oblivious about his colour change at the back, and tries to cover up that he hasn't been out. But Easy has other ideas and changes JJ's flight plan and orders him to fly out to Lightning Bug Lake and back, and JJ realises the truth and returns to the hangar, greeted by Brenda, Easy and Big Jake, who are not pleased with JJ for running off without telling anyone, and is told that they ran out of his brown paint and have blue paint on hand, and gets repainted into blue and learns not to go off without telling anyone. Now, the episode itself is very well done and does have a simple moral of not wandering off without telling anyone. And I find it interesting that JJ has jumped from brown to blue, a bit confusing in universe of the show, but production-wise it does make sense when we reach that, but I find it a bit confusing that his supposed punishment is, you're wandering off, you get repainted. You're still that colour to this day. Like, does anyone else find that a bit odd? This is not in the script, like, I'm just saying this out loud, like, that's a bit confusing. Imagine that in The Adventure Begins, where it's like, oh Thomas, I'm gonna punish you by painting you blue. And it's still blue to this day, and I'm thinking way too deep into this, and then again, it wouldn't be the first time I fall too deep for my own good. The more you know. And as for this period of the series, you can tell that they stepped up their game. The sets look better, the human models look slightly better, although they look like they had some sort of rush job to some of them, but not all of them. But at least it wasn't a hodgepodge like previously. Now, the models of the planes themselves, on the other hand, you can tell that they really stepped up their game with them, mostly giving them extra details instead of being one solid colour with windows painted on them here and there. And the one thing that you can also tell that they stepped up their game with, they got eyelids. They can blink. Thomas, eat your heart out. You can't blink to save your life. Neither can Tugs, but we're pointing fingers at Thomas. Tugs is good. Thomas, big stinky. Also, they have irises instead of being a solid colour black like previously, so you can really tell that they try to step up their game and make it stand out a bit more from the competition. Now, what does the last period of the model series have for us in 1996? Well, let's find out. Like, right now. Okay boys, we're on the home stretch now, so buckle in those seatbelts, cause I'm about to plow this car into the nearest tree. And don't worry, I have insurance, because I invented driving. Yeah, I invented driving. Silly cavemen using their feet. I'm looking at you, Fred. Chubby coon. JJ and the Sparkleberry Tree starts off with us being told that JJ and Big Jake are going on a holiday to the beaches of Pangabula to see the legendary Sparkle Tree.
Sparkleberry Tree, you stupid fuck. Oh, wait.
Yep, these talking planes with faces can go on holiday in this universe, and how, you might ask? I don't know, I'm not going to ask in case our heads explode. On their travels, the duo sing a song about Pangabula and its amazing colourful tree.
Pang, pang, big Pangabula, come and I'll introduce you. Love to say howdy-do ya. Monkey!
During their journey, they decide to rest for the night, and JJ asks Big Jake about the Sparkleberry Tree. And I think I'll let the episode itself do the talking here.
Tell me again about the Sparkleberry Tree, Big Jake.
The last time I saw it was some 10 years ago, Big Jake said. It's a big, beautiful tree with long, sturdy branches that reach up to the sky. And each branch is filled with hundreds of sparkleberries. Red ones, and yellow ones, and green ones, and orange ones, and purple ones. Every color you can think of. And each night, all the little sparkleberries glow in the moonlight, just like the lights on a Christmas tree.
The next day, JJ and Big Jake finally arrive at Pangabula and meet a local called Lucky, who is surprised that they were interested in seeing the said tree when no one hasn't came to see it in years. And this as well also confuses Big Jake and JJ until Lucky shows the two the sorry state of the tree due to being mistreated by tourists and visitors for picking berries from its branches, cutting off a handful of branches to take home as souvenirs, and so on and so forth. But JJ suggests that he and Big Jake could try and help the sick and possibly dying tree in any way they could. Lucky has his doubts, but agrees to the little jet plane's offer, and the three set to work trying to restore the Sparkleberry Tree to its original potential till the dead of night. And they all fall asleep one by one, wondering if all their work was worth it. And yes, it was, as they woke to the revival of the Sparkleberry Tree in its restored glory. Unlike the Tugs props. And JJ is all over the moon with happiness with the effort they put in, and Lucky is pleased that they were given a second chance. Soon JJ and Big Jake make their departure and bid farewell to Lucky and head off for home.
Pangabula, soon we'll return to you. We'll say howdy-do again in Pangabula, la la.
We gotta come here again.
The episode itself was really good, and it does have its lessons on environmental messages of looking after trees and nature. Its musical segments at the beginning and the end were really catchy. The visuals for this episode is what really wins it for me. Its sunrise at the beginning and its night scenes are magnificent. Now then, there's a bit to unpack here, but the 1996 era of the series, you can really tell that they stepped up their game and stuck to it in high gear. The human models are really good, top-notch quality, it's scary. And to think they start off by simply repainting action figures. The plane models get an upgrade and look better than they did before, and it makes their appearances in 1994 look like something straight out of a bootleg. And that's really saying something. So I think I've said enough, but there are some things I didn't mention yet, and that is the elephant in the room. And that is the faces. And let's be real, I'm not going to beat around the bush. They are creepy, but I'd argue that the CGI counterparts of the faces are more creepy and uncanny valley, while the faces on the models are a bit more tamer, but not that much if you ask me. And to be honest, it feels like someone just found the nearest baby doll, cut the face off and stuck it in front of JJ and Tracy. Herky's face looks like the Noid. Savannah's face looks like Lois Griffin if someone made her nose and lips bigger. Big Jake's face looks like Donald Trump. And Snuffy and Old Oscar's faces look like someone found a block of cheese and stuck it on the front of a plane and called it a day and so forth. And another thing I've noticed is that the plane characters are pretty much off-the-shelf character stereotypes that you can easily find like in any media, if it's aimed at kids or not, and you can think of them on the top of your head, like the main boy and girl character, that look identical to each other. The parental figures, the best friend, the other best friend, and the old man stereotype. Wait, who are you?
She's our new employee that works here.
Okay, but why is she dressed like me?
I only gave her the hat. What she's wearing is just a coincidence.
Oh, okay. Now then, from what you're seeing with the footage of the show that I've been showing throughout the entire video, and obviously from the way it all looks, and you've probably come to the realization that it does have the similar style to that of Thomas, Tugs, and Jack in the Pack. And you're right, and a bit of a no-shit Sherlock at this point, but 100% true is that JJ the Jet Plane was heavily influenced by Thomas the Tank Engine this entire time.
Oh, what a twist!
Yep, this entire time, JJ was heavily influenced by Thomas, and how the hell do I know this information, you may ask? Well, let me tell you. In 2015, YouTuber Mike Nicholson uploaded all the episodes from the model series into one video. And if you go into the comments of the video, you'll see a comment left by a person called Jonathan Sermon, revealing that he worked on the model series and says the following.
I was the director of photography and lighting director for all of the JJ the Jet Plane live action productions. As a side note, I also carved the original test models for JJ and Big Jake to see if this project would be feasible. They are currently sitting in a glass case along with all the other models in an office in Dallas, Texas. We made a 3-minute test film called JJ's First Flight, so the creator, David Mitchell, could see if this was something he wanted to pursue. JJ's original colour was blue, but once we started doing flying sequences on blue screen, before green screen got big, JJ would key out as he was the same as the blue screen background. We eventually changed over to green screen recording, but in the meanwhile decided to repaint JJ brown. David Mitchell, the creator of JJ, had a young son who loved airplanes. David knew Thomas the Tank Engine was a big hit with kids, so he thought, why not do the same thing with airplanes?
Now with this information, it brings some interesting things that we weren't aware of. And it is interesting as to why JJ was once brown, then blue. Know that the series was influenced by Thomas, and it really shows, and bear in mind at this point, season 4 of Thomas hasn't come out yet. And speaking of influences, one thing I've also noticed is that they went with a George Carlin-like narrator for the series, and they don't bother to hide it. And it's pretty much the we have George Carlin at home scenario, but I will say this about John William Graft, the narrator for the series. He does a decent job, and that's what he was given.
Easy O'Malley, head of the airline, gave JJ a pep talk. Welcome to Easy Airlines, kid. You're gonna do fine. Just fine. JJ was so excited, he didn't hear a single word. All he could think about was impressing everyone with a dazzling display of flying. After a few moments of silence, JJ said,
Gee, it makes you feel lucky to be in an airplane, doesn't it?
You know, said Big Jake, sometimes we take our everyday lives for granted, and we don't see the beauty all around us. Often I fly too high to even see the ground.
I know what you mean, said Savannah. Sometimes I go too fast to even notice what's around me.
Each of us should stop and smell the roses every day, even if you can't smell very well.
sniffled Snuffy, who was having trouble with his allergies. Wise old Oscar always talks about enjoying the wonders of nature, Tracy said. You know what? I think that's the reason Jennifer wanted to fly with him.
The village of Frosty Pines was a beautiful ski resort in the northern mountains. Herky, who was an expert skier, loved the place. Every winter, he spent every spare moment skiing its magnificent slopes. In fact, the peppy little helicopter was known far and wide as the Ski King of Frosty Pines.
And knowing that the models are still around, although as of writing, editing, or by the time this video is out, or when you're watching it at this point in time of the video's upload, no images of the models after the model series ended has ever surfaced, and Jonathan's comment on the video is from 4 years ago, so it's pretty much unsure how the models are now, so it's pretty much a roadblock. After 1996, JJ's short-lived live-action debut ended and nothing else was heard since that, from the Little Blue Jet until 1998, the year I was born. JJ made his return into CGI with horrifying results, as we've pretty much discovered earlier, until ending in 2001, then finally disappearing for good in 2005. Also, the other thing to note is that JJ was played by the Jimmy Neutron Debbie Derryberry, and that's about it. That's all I can comment about the CGI series. But we can pretend it never happened anyway, so go back to hell where you belong. JJ, you think JJ is gone for good, but no. Earlier this year, a teaser image for a 2D animated reboot of the series has got everyone talking, but not right now, but I'm pretty sure me mentioning it here will bring some talk to it again, so yeah, I don't know how to feel about that, but I will support it, because it looks more promising than All Engines Go. Okay, I think I've said enough for now, so thank you all for watching, subscribe for more, and goodbye. Didn't see you there. I was just cleaning up all this, and I'm surprised you're all still here watching this video. While I was cleaning, I found this, and I stuck Thomas's face on it. It's JJ the jet plane, zooming along the treetops, zipping way up in the sky. Those men and their flying machines, they go up, up, and they go down, down, down. Look at it go. It goes boom into a man, killing it instantly. That's the closest you'll get to a plane crash in my JJ video. Cry about it.